My name is Ayesha Gamiet and I'm an artist, art educator and illustrator. I specialise in the art of Islamic manuscript illumination, and I have contributed work to the Cambridge Mosque project over the past few years, maybe 2 or 3 artworks. Illumination is my specialism. The word for illumination in Arabic and Turkish is tezhib or tezhib, and it comes from the Arabic word dhahaba, which means to gild or to make something gold. So a key part of illumination is the use of gold paint, which brightens the page and makes it shine, hence illuminating it. Illumination is the art of beautifying the borders of manuscripts. So we use it in Islamic sacred manuscripts, such as the Quran, but also in a secular context, in court arts and in the art that decorates poetry. My journey to Islamic art really began at the School of Oriental and African Studies, where I was doing my degree in African art history, African and Asian art history and archaeology. And it was an interesting time because I was studying the theoretical part of Islamic art and the historical part of Islamic art, but was not involved in any practice of the art at all. And that was useful to me to an extent, but it left me with many unanswered questions because my degree didn't really address the philosophy or the spirituality behind Islamic art. And it was something that I felt was lacking and didn't really know where to search for answers. And then partway through my degree, I made a visit to the Alhambra in Spain with my sister. And that for me was a huge turning point because it was my first, my first real full experience of Islamic art. I mean, I had seen Islamic art in museums before, but I think being around the architecture was a particularly important experience. I was affected by the sounds of the fountains and the smells and the entire atmosphere and the beautiful architecture, of course. And I remember being in a courtyard of the Alhambra and just making a little prayer that one day I would be able to participate in learning how to make this art and how to pass it on. But I didn't know how to go about it at all. So in some ways, it's like everything that happened from that point was an answer to that prayer. I returned home to the UK and I had to finish my degree at SOAS. And by chance, I went to a lecture on Islamic calligraphy. And I met the calligrapher Soraya Said, who was the first practitioner of Islamic art that I ever met. And so I went to talk to her afterwards. And she told me about a place called the Princess School in London, the Princess School for Traditional Arts, or as it was known then, the Visual Islamic and Traditional Arts course. And it's a postgraduate program for people who are interested in traditional arts and they look at Islamic art. And the entire course is practice-based. And so I really felt that it was the answer to my prayers. I applied and fortunately I got a place to do my postgraduate degree there. And those 2 years were really some of the most incredible years, 2 of the most incredible years of my life, where I was just exposed to the beauty of Islamic art from a practical sense, and also had some experience of the underlying philosophy and spirituality, which was what I was really interested in. And it was during my time at the Princess School that several of my teachers and several of the students felt that I might be good at illumination, and they encouraged me to travel to Istanbul for a month in the summer and just try it. And a student in the year above me was learning under the illuminator Ayten Tiryaki, who became my illumination teacher, and she offered to introduce me So I spent a month in Istanbul in the summer holiday between the first and the second years, and I met my teacher, Ayten Tiryaki, and really that was the beginning of my love for illumination. Ayten Hoca means teacher. It's just a respectful term that we call our teachers. Ayten Hoca is very rare in that she is a master of both calligraphy and illumination, and so she's very special in that respect. One of the first things I noticed about Ayten Hoca was her adab, or her etiquette with people, and especially her etiquette with me as a new student. I will never forget the first time I met her. She gave me an exercise to trace some illumination motifs onto tracing paper. And I was working with my mechanical pencil, and I was so nervous whenever she came over to look at my work. I kept cracking the pencil, and I kept cracking the nib, and I was quite embarrassed about it. But she just, all she ever said to me was "Mashallah, Mashallah, Ayesha, Mashallah," and it just struck me that her etiquette really came across very, very strongly, and I would say that is a characteristic that I've seen in her always, all the way throughout my relationship with her, and something that I aspire to develop in myself as well. The student-master relationship is very important. It's absolutely key. Your master is like a mentor to you, and it's really about not just learning the craft that they teach you, but also imitating their manners, and that they are a guide for how you are as a human being living in this world. So it's a very, very significant relationship. And I think one of the very beautiful things about tashib, or illumination, is that it's a craft that seeks to develop not just your artistic skill, but also the student as a human being, to beautify them within, as well as through their craft. And I think that has probably been the reason why I've stuck with it so long. I mean, I was drawn to it initially from the beauty of the manuscripts, but I came to realize that it's also about nurturing beautiful human beings, and I think that is something that we just need more of, a lot more of in this world. And what your teacher will get you to do initially is, before you even pick up a paintbrush, is to work with the pencil and start learning the illumination motifs, which means the flowers and the leaves that we use in illuminated manuscripts. We start by tracing designs from books, then by copying, and then drawing from memory until the designs become like a part of you, and you're just able to do them without thinking too much, and to do them from memory. Once you've mastered the motifs, the illumination motifs, the next stage would be to start trying to put them into composition. So we begin our compositions by firstly looking at the shapes that we need to fill, and then creating spirals where every spiral has a point of origin. And we then plan where we're going to put leaves and flowers on those spirals. And once the design stage is complete, we can start working with the brush, with the paintbrush. These are some of my very first exercises when starting illumination. And I have many, many folders like this. I kept, I think, almost all of my notes. First stage for a new illuminator, before they even pick up a paintbrush, is to work with the pencil and begin learning the leaf and flower motifs. So these are some of my very, very early attempts, and there are many mistakes in this. These leaves are not the right shape. So we start by tracing. And you may notice that the lines have different weights. They go from thin to thick, which imitates the way that we work with the brush as well for this style. We go from thin to thick. So with the pencil, we try to get our hand used to making the thin and thick lines, try to make the hand sensitive to the thin and thick lines, so that we're more practiced when we come to using the brush. And we go from tracing to copying, and then to eventually working from memory. This shows you the woven border, so it's the beginning of the woven border practice, which is called zincirlik in Turkish. So first we learn how to construct the border on squared paper. We learn the different principles of how to construct the border. So this one is more like a braid, and then this is like a chain, and then this is a bit more of a complicated chain. After learning the illumination motifs, and once your teacher is happy that you have a good foundation in being able to draw and memorize and draw the flowers and the leaves from memory, you start working with composition. So we begin by looking at pre-prepared compositions and analysing them, just analysing the different parts of the composition, how they're put together, and learning how to create your own compositions. Here are some examples of my very first compositions. So this is not very good. We have a shamsa shape, and we try to fill the space with spirals, but as you can see, this was my first attempt, so there's a lot of empty space around here. Then we plan where we're going to put the different flowers and leaves, indicating them with circles and oval shapes. And once that stage is complete, we can start drawing in the details of various flowers and leaves. Now you can see that my composition had a lot of mistakes, because all of the red here is where my teacher, Ayten Tiryaki, has made corrections. So this was not very good. And I've tried to take her corrections on board here, and this is the finished composition. But the whole process takes quite a long time, and you can go back and forth between you and your teacher many times before the composition is correct and before they're happy with it. The flowers are much more difficult, and with the flowers, putting the outline around each of those flowers is with a brush, and we work to within a fraction of a millimeter. My teacher once said to me, Ayesha, if you're out by the width of a moth's thigh, it's wrong. So that's the degree of accuracy that you have to work within.